morning. Welcome to another Sunday morning sketch. This is Eric Whalen from Super Secret Project X. And this morning, I'm going to do Ratigan from Disney's The Great Mouse Detective. One that I probably would not have done, except it's one of my wife's favorites, and she suggested it, and it will be a challenge for me. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna do that thing. Do that Ratigan thing. There we go. Again, had a bit of a week. Not sure how talkative I am going to be. So, yeah. I can do it. Yeah, it's been a week. I know you do. It's good to be believed in. Good to be believed.
Is this going to be noisy to you?
Whatever you want with the fan, sweetie. It doesn't matter to me. Light out my eyes. About there. I have people watching. Hey guys, just so you know, it's been kind of a long week. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually be responding a whole heck of a lot. Frankly, I'm having a bit of a time just getting lines down. So, oh, cool. Oh, good. Well, an old friend of mine. Right on. I take it he's a Disney guy, I believe. Right on. Right on, Jason. This is kind of a last week I would really prefer just to never repeat again, so. Except for everything at home. Everything at home was good, but.
I was like, here, I opened up the stream so I can actually keep watching who's coming on. Jay, Jim, and Jay. Jason Hines, Jay Barron, and Jim.
Got a lot of J's going on.
Oh, Jay. Hey, guys. Another person was watching named Roland.
What now?
Yeah, one of Jay's friends named Roland is watching.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for any first-time peoples in here. I'm usually more talkative than this, but yeah, little exhausted this week. I'm actually surprised. I was playing. I woke up and made coffee and played video games for a little bit. I actually had some pretty good gaming, but I think that's mostly because I have like instinctual things going on, and actually like word forming at this moment seems to be a little difficult.
Word framing is hard.
Oh, you have no idea. Right now, my brain is just.
Believe me, I'm right there with you. We both have hard weekends.
Yeah. I think the frustrating thing about, and I'm going to give no details, but the frustrating thing about what I'm dealing with at work is, it's like what we were talking about this morning with the political stuff. It's all perspectives. And if somebody simply perceives something in a certain way, that flavors their entire everything. And so, like, I've got this guy, I think he's certain that I'm like some egomaniacal, and I can't get him to understand that I'm trying, that if I feel a certain way, I'm not the only one. And he cannot get his mind wrapped around that, because I think he just thinks I'm just basically a dreadful person. Which there's very little I can do about that, which is a shame because I like the guy, but you know what are you gonna do? Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. It's just one of those things where you get to a point where you're like, dude, the only reason why I opened my mouth about stuff is because I care enough to actually spend the energy to do so. As it just turns out, it would have been simply better to have just not cared at all, you know, which is a shame, but, you know, really, honestly, what are you going to do? You know, if the actual proper answer was the corporate, you know, shut up and just do the work and not say anything, / we want to hear what you think, it's like, okay. You know, I mean, it's a shame.
As long as your opinion is our opinion.
I hate saying that, but quite often that's actually what it is. That they want to hear your opinion, and some of them legitimately do. There's a number at work that I really like them because I think they literally really are interested in what you think. And then there's the ones that basically want to hear your thought process so they can fix you. And that's what I find exhausting. It's like, look, I might be mistaken about stuff, but I don't need to be fixed. I don't need to turn into something else. I don't need to, and it just gets to a point where you're like, you know what, I'm just wanting to go home and draw a rat with is this a snooty face? It's not snooty, that's not right. Irritated face.
But by the way, it's looking very well. I think it's looking really good.
It's not bad. I'm actually kind of surprised how close I got, how quickly. Now just really gotta make it really kind of sing. And the funny thing is, I wouldn't bring up a whole lot of stuff at work if I didn't see it legitimately causing problems with people. But it is, and said individual or individuals can't. They think that everybody should be counted separately, and that if there's any problems, it's an individual problem, and if there's similarities across the board with people having issues, it's not collectively a problem, it's individually a problem. And it's kind of like, well, that might be true sometimes. It's actually an interesting observation, but I don't think that's true all the time, and I don't think issues at work here it's really...
We have a Gary Pardon watching.
A who now?
A Gary Pardon watching.
Oh, Gary. Hey, Gary. Anything I say about stuff at work, please keep it to yourself.
Probably know we should be talking about work.
Yeah, which is probably why I shouldn't. It's not fun anyway. It's not relaxing and Sunday morning sketch stuff.
Talk about some happy things like a
Yeah, I'd rather talk...
glowering rat right now.
I'd rather talk about happy stuff, but it's so hard when you're just so exhausted with, like, ridiculous things that are going on with how you spend most of your time being at work and being seen as selfish or dreadful or whatever because you're simply trying to bring up some issues that you see as being problems. And frankly, it's kind of at a point where it's like, I don't know what to say or do because maybe I just shouldn't even bother in caring, which is exactly the opposite of how I want to be. But if it causes problems, it causes problems. And so it's kind of like, it's funny, caring and wanting to fix stuff seems to cause too many problems. So you kind of get to a point where, like, oh, okay, well, that's what's happening. That's what's happening, which is unfortunate. But
Jim says, dude, talk about representations of mice in cartoons.
I know. I'm sorry. It's been a hell of a couple weeks. I'm sorry.
Mice in cartoons. Let's see, dude.
I had a serious thing for Gadget in Resco. Awesome. Oh yeah, well, she was not only, like, keeping in mind in kid terms. In kid terms, she was like a hot chick in kid terms, but she was smart too.
And kind of dorky and nerdy at the same time. It's like I loved her for that fact that she was. I mean, I've had many cartoon crushes in my life, but this is my top 3. Where my very first one was He-Man.
Well, I can see that. He's the master of the universe.
Oh, absolutely. Second, Penny Gadget.
We share that one.
And then third was Gadget. Also a Gadget.
It's the funny thing is in both Penny and Gadget, I firmly believed it was a twofold situation. Both of which were energetic and cute. And they were smart.
Yes.
And I never understood why guys found stupid chicks hot, other than they just want their bodies. And so it's kind of one of my issues, like when you've got certain, and I like anime quite a bit, but when you've got certain anime things going on, certain like cute girl dumb characters going on, and they're just there for their boobs or whatever, they're so forgettable. And I really like it when they give girls a certain level of really wonderful intelligence, even if it isn't a very cartoony way. It's still very nice.
Jim says Gadget was kind of cute. Her and Chitara. Like, yo, Chitara was pretty awesome.
Chitara was great. I kind of liked her in the new version that they had a few years back because they made her like so she was sort of a priestess, so they like increased her intelligence. And Chitara was just sort of that great action chick in the original show.
And that was the thing. She was the great action chick, but in many aspects, unfortunately, she was the girl on the team.
She was, and
Yeah.
what was it, Kit or Kat, the girl one?
That was Kit.
Kit. Well, she was even more so. Like they there's so much I like about 80s cartoons, but some of them got to the point where they were just making these really obviously stereotypical, just stick the Lego block in the right place kind of characters. Which is why when there was a really great character, it was like, yeah! Because the rest of the time it was kind of like, yeah, I liked Thundercats and all, but at the end of the day, there was very few really, and I mean really memorable characters. Like good character designs, great voice actors, but kind of like...
Jim says Melinda looked like Penny when she was little.
Awesome.
And then he says, I had a crush on Penny from Inspector Gadget. That
Yeah.
explains some things, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The first time I saw her, she had a computer book and a dog with an antenna, and I lost it. You know. Yeah, sorry for earlier if I brought anyone down. It's just, man, there's weeks, you know. And I don't mean to bring that into Sunday morning sketch, because this isn't only for people out there. This is for me too.
It's a bit of therapy.
Well, it is, but it shouldn't be like downer time.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to bring that into it. It's
Sunday morning sadness.
yeah. Sunday morning sad. Welcome to Sunday morning sad. It's like, oh my God.
So what's the one, the Yiddish word, skivich? Sunday morning skivich?
You got to say that again?
The Yiddish word, was it skivich or something?
I don't know that one.
Yeah. Skivich? I have to look it up.
Yeah, because I actually don't know this one you're talking about, so.
Svetch, that's what I'm looking for, svetch. Sunday morning svetch.
Svetch. Oh, gotta love Yiddish. Got such great sounds to
We're
it.
svetching. Sorry to our Yiddish friends, sorry.
Well, I hope there's nothing insulting about that. I think it's wonderful when people...
If I'm using it in the wrong terms.
Oh,
okay,
admittedly. Well, it's like using Canadian in the wrong terms. You know, it's English, but you're bound to get something wrong. It's like no matter what you do, you know.
How do you use in the wrong term? I'm kidding. Sorry to our Canadian friends.
Oh, kind of a jerk move.
I know. My Sunday morning svetched it. At one point, you should put out a request, like, okay.
No.
Okay. Oh.
I'm not. I'm sorry. That's nothing against. That's nothing against anybody on the outside. But this part of this is for me.
Yes.
I'm doing things for me, and I don't want to get this thing into. Why aren't you doing Itchy Toes from this anime you've never seen? She's my waifu. It's like, no. I'm sorry. I'm gonna do my characters that I want to do. You brought up Ratigan. I was like, actually, that's an interesting. It was an interesting challenge, so I picked it up. It's like when you said Popeye. I was like, that's a really good one. But at the end of the day, it's like I'm sharing this with the world. I have enough people telling me what to do. You know, that's nothing against any of the watchers. I actually kind of wish I could be at a point where I could do that. But I think psychologically, this is a bit of selfish time.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like if anyone has a problem with that, they're free to go elsewhere. It's, you know, no one's paying for this. This is free. People can watch this all they like, but at the end of the day, this is kind of me time that I'm sharing with the world. So
thank you guys for sharing with us. Thank you for being with us in our crazy rants.
okay. Okay, now I see how Ratigan's hair goes. That took me a second. I'm like, what? What is his hair doing? Okay, now I see what it's doing.
Jim says, we're here for Eric's show.
Yeah, it has been so long since I've seen The Great Mouse Detective. I think I need to watch it again.
Well, I have it on DVD,
Yeah.
and I've been wanting to watch it again too. So
We also have the Last Unicorn on Netflix. I've been wanting to watch again, and
yeah.
it's the HD version, which I've never seen. I remember actually the first time watching that, which I think is actually the only time I've seen it, was the one time. And I actually was kind of surprised how really good it was. I had no idea what to think of it, because, well, let's face it, it's kind of a rare title.
I've never seen it. I've heard
There's
much about
moments in that I was like,
Well, I heard about some of the dark stuff.
oh yeah, where there's one dark moment, the first one that I saw, and I literally watched it and my mouth fell open, going like, okay, that wasn't bloody or gory or anything, but it was dark, and I was like, wow. I'm like, American animation used to really, okay, not that we stopped, but really used to like punch you in the gut and there's like this, how's the best way to put it? Unicorn genocide sequence. And you're like, oh my god.
No, that was American. I thought that was a Japanese. I don't. So that was
Wow, I need to go back and check that. Now that I think about it, I don't know where that came from. I thought it was one of those, how we have like little studios doing stuff, and then they would do a release and kind of, you'd never see them again or whatever.
Right.
Or they kind of, so maybe I'm making the wrong assumption here. Maybe that was Japanese.
Okay,
I'm not.
Outside world. Is Last Unicorn Japanese or American? Tell us.
Well, there's also the problem, like the Japanese sometimes made shows for other countries. I mean,
Superbook.
that's what I'm saying. So sometimes you get stuff mixed up. Goes, well, actually, Superbook was an American release. It's just it was a Japanese production.
Yeah.
Now, if it was released in Japan for the Japanese and then we pick it up, I consider that anime. But when you've got like The Littles, I think was another one. Wasn't The Littles?
Yes, Littles was produced in Japan.
For like America and Europe, right?
Yeah, it was actually done. Yeah, it was based upon. And I'm forgetting the original story. But yes. Jay Barron says, I was thinking about the scene where the harpy takes revenge.
Oh. If I remember correctly, weren't the harpies actually illustrated with like 3 droopy like old woman boobies in that? I mean, they were. I mean, like if I'm thinking of the right one, I remember seeing this, and I think it was that one, and I would just looked at the screen and go like, they didn't care about politics at all. That's just ugly.
Jim says Last Unicorn was Rankin Bass. Thanks, Jim.
Oh, it was. It was not Japanese. I thought it was American. Okay.
I guess the reason why is I never seen it. But I've seen clips and scenes from it. And we had the adapted storybook at the comic shop when I worked there, and it had the look of it. So I didn't look through it because I wanted to watch the movie.
Well, the unicorns did have that like saccharine Japanese sort of look to them.
Both Jay and Jim animated by Topcraft.
By who?
Topcraft was the animation studio.
I don't think I recognize that name. What else did they do?
Let's see. Yeah, but the main thing was Rankin Bass was the production company.
I always kind of, not that I was always the biggest fan throughout my life of like. This is going to sound funny, the smaller studios, like Rankin Bass, like, Bakshi, like, oh yeah, like they were little. But, like, they didn't have the same kind of staying power that some of the other studios had that have been around that are still around.
It's like how,
But I love the fact that they were there. I love even though I didn't like every single thing that they did, I love the fact that they were part of the American tapestry. Is that the right term?
Last Unicorn was Rankin Bass, animated by Topcraft. Topcraft was a Japanese company.
Okay.
And apparently they also did Nausicaa.
Ghibli did Nausicaa.
Topcraft eventually joined the studio, Ghibli.
I see. Okay, now that makes sense. I was like, man, that's a Miyazaki. It's one of my favorite Miyazakis.
Which would explain the look then.
Which actually needs to. Huh?
I was like, they're all discussing all the points, and each person, whenever somebody would say something, somebody else comes in a second later repeating the same thing. Dang it, he just said that. So it's really funny watching the answers come in.
That's funny. Actually, I think this is probably the most anybody has discussed anything on Sunday mornings, which is when I am not doing so hot, not saying stuff. Everybody rolls into my rescue with conversation, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad you guys are in it. This is fantastic because we need this.
Honestly, I do. I also needed those tank moments this morning.
Yeah.
I had some good tank moments on World of Tanks.
Oh, yeah, that's looking really good, huh?
Yeah, it's getting there.
You did better than when I was sketching it at the auto repair place. I did a sketch and it turned out way not good. You're doing much better for your first time than I did.
Did you have a resource up? Because I'm not varying very far off the original source material. Just so everybody knows, I'm not a genie. Here's kind of what I'm going off of. Because there was, and Ratigan has got a bunch of really good facial expressions, so I just decided to pick one that I don't think I realized at the time, but probably mirrored my emotional condition at the moment. I do dig the fact, and I'm going to back out for a second, that in the world of Sunday morning sketch, Ratigan and Ixer won. When I close the sketchbook, will in fact be smooching. There's going to be very likely like,
I've read the fan fiction.
I have read the fan fictions too. Strangely enough, Great Mouse Detective / Ixer 1 fanfic apparently is a thing. Apparently. Or it will be once I made the mistake of saying that out loud. It was kind of fun. Last time when I did Ixer 1, I actually kind of was like, I'm going to have to explain this. I don't think many people know this title. Which was actually kind of fun.
And Jim also adds, Toru Hara of Toei was in charge of Topcraft.
Okay, you're going to have to say that again, sweetie.
Toru Hara of Toei Animation was in charge of Topcraft.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I know the names, but I don't have the Wikipedia entry in my head, unfortunately.
Well, Toei, of course, is Godzilla stuff, so there's
Right.
lots of connections going into the different people going in and out of the studios, which explains a lot of the good stuff.
Well, it's actually what I was talking to, not talking to a ton, but messaging back and forth a little bit with Jan Scott Frazier, and I was like, because she was in, like, I believe the 80s and 90s animation environment over there.
Yes.
So, because I really didn't, and I've never actually known what the pay scale and stuff is over there. So she filled me in. Mm-hmm. All of my childhood dreams of wanting to work in that environment went out the door immediately. I'm like, they paid you what? Mm-hmm. And it was like criminal amounts, so small, and more like, people had to love what they were doing to a maniacal degree to work for that small amount of money.
Oh, yeah, her crap, why didn't my name, why didn't his name just blank out of my head? Oh, wow. Crap, we've known him for years and he's on our friends list.
Steve?
Yes, Steve Bennett. Yeah. Him or her and Steve Bennett, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're just... Yeah, because he worked on a lot of stuff there.
Yeah,
they could tell you about that.
Yeah. He was in Urusei Yatsura,
yes.
and he mentioned a whole bunch of other stuff that I can't remember, and I don't know to what degree he was involved in. Jan Scott, I believe, was Ghost in the Shell, and I don't frankly recall what else. Which is really funny because I like Jan Scott a lot, and I actually don't care for Ghost in the Shell all that much. So I'm like, so I never really talked about Ghost in the Shell because I never wanted to go, I just found it boring. But I thought like the animation and craftsmanship was like really gorgeous. I just thought it was just, it just bored me to tears. I was like, oh, this is what they did with Ghost in the Shell. These are fascinating decisions. And then everybody was like, it's so good. And I'm like, oh, I guess really boring means so good. Like I never quite understood that, but I was like, okay. It's like when people were like, oh my god, Evangelion is so good. I'm like, oh, I guess ridiculously melodramatic and depressing is really good. Okay, like okay, y'all can have, that's your opinion and you're welcome to it. Like good for you. I'll sit over here and not do that.
And both Jay and Jim have chimed in also. Top Craft animators were laid off in 1985. Later started working on Thundercats and Silverhawks.
Okay, that actually would explain perhaps those opening sequences. Yeah, because when I was a kid, I kept going like, holy crap, look at these opening sequences, and then kind of spend the rest of the afternoon softly thinking to myself,
when does it start?
When am I going to get that animation from the opening sequences? They're like, huh. Because I had like all like my favorite little animation bit out of Thundercats is when Lion-O holds the Sword of Omens out. It has like the black lightning like crackling around it. Even as a kid, I was like, oh, it's like really beautiful. And then you never get anything like that again in the show. And it was always like, oh, come on, guys.
Mine was Chitara's run sequence.
That was good too.
That was my favorite because all of these because I recorded this stuff.
Or I believe it was the Tigra jump with the whip. I thought was beautifully done.
Yeah, I just like Chitara's because you saw all the characters, all the villains that she's running past.
Oh, that's right.
And all of the work of drawing all of those singular characters and as she's running through, and you see her and she has this like, oh yes, smirk on her face. And she just does that incredible flip and then just does the heroic pose. I'm like, yeah!
And that was what I keep saying. It's like, I'm not saying that Thundercats or a lot of these shows, like, I'll say something, I guess, mildly disparaging. I don't mean it to really be insulting, but I end up going like, I guess when I was a kid, I was always able to see that there was so much more potential. Like, I really enjoyed the shows, but I always had a little something in the back of my head going like, couldn't you have just a little more, you showed me that opening sequence, guys.
I think that was like with us, all of us who were really into the cartoons and not those of us who turned out to be artists, we would say the same thing. I mean, like I just said, it's like I would sit there and go, okay, when does the good part start?
Yeah.
and I mean, I didn't mind. I loved watching the show.
Oh yeah, no, me
but
too.
It's just like you notice that basically as a kid, you didn't know it was a drop in quality. You just know that there was something different that you were waiting for it to get better.
Well, actually, what I thought was smart, and I thought this was smart on the G.I. Joe guys' part, now that we've got, like, a plane going by, is they had the first two miniseries that would be Mass Device and The Weather Dominator. And I love those to death. And those weren't necessarily perfect, but they put a lot of effort into those, I felt. Even though there's moments where you're like, oh, the quality kind of dropped here, but they were doing mechanical and character animation, and that's got to be tough, especially when it's probably, I mean, I work in the studio. I know that sometimes people in studios are handed stuff that they're not necessarily good at. So I'm like, so what happened to me, and I remember this, and it steadily dawned over years as a little kid watching G.I. Joe, that the quality very slowly dropped over many, so to the point where you got near the end, and I don't know, the last 20, 30 episodes, and it's liquid garbage coming out of the screen. And no, it's bad. I mean, there's moments where you're just going like, and one of my favorite bits, even as a kid, I was like, my mouth dropped open. It was so funny. Because they clearly were getting stuff through where people weren't noticing, and I think it was it Cobra was doing a telemarathon or something? It was really crazy, but the Baroness was in like this slinky black outfit, and what I thought was hilarious was it was transparent. You could see her nipples through the dress, and as a kid I was going like, wait, what? I'm like, nope.
Nobody caught this. No one. Nobody caught Baroness's nipples in G.I. Joe. No one. Really? And then there were the episodes like, I think it was the MacGuffin device or whatever. And there were things going on in it that was clearly animation mistakes that they were fixing by putting like silly special or sound effects over it. Like somebody would just disappear and you just heard like a it was like, no, you forgot to put the cell in. That's not part of the story. You're cheap. You're cheap and it's funny. It's terribly, tragically funny. You know. And I love those shows, but when you get to a point, you got to kind of go like, yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It's like, and I've said this before, and I never mean this to be insulting to like Dragon Ball Z fans, because I firmly believe, well, no, it is what it is. It's like James Bond. It is what it is. Gem and the Holograms. It is what it is. I'm not saying that in a disparaging way. I'm saying that it's you've got certain fans that like certain things, and that's actually really awesome. That's, in my opinion, the way it should be.
Yeah, Thundar, it is what it is.
Oh my God! Anyone who thinks that I am judging anybody, watch Thundar, the Barbarian, and then think to yourself, Eric likes this. So I'm not sitting there going like, my stuff is so much better. I'm sitting there going like, oh no, it is what it is. Thundar the Barbarian is, wow, what it is. And that's what, and right down to all the stuff where I can just see people not liking it. But then there's the stuff, and it's same in Dragon Ball Z or James Bond or anything else, where I've got a friend just does not like James Bond. I mean, at all. Just does not like James Bond, and that's fine. And the thing is he doesn't like it because of what it is, and there's nothing you can do about it at that point, you know. And so it might as well. I'm going like, no, you might as well have it that way. That's the way. Like to me, the fact that Thundar the Barbarian is the biggest sexist pig. He's a total pig. He is so funny. He's on the screen being a total just sexist, horrible pig. And I'm laughing the whole time because I'm like, wow. And then my favorite bit, Princess Ariel, knowing he's the biggest pig ever, is like in the background just going like, ah. Like it was early like misogyny kind of parody stuff. It's so funny when Ariel goes like, guys, we shouldn't do this thing. It's dumb. We should do this smart thing instead. And Thundar just looks at her and goes, no. And Ukla goes, ah! And then they go running off, and Ariel's like, you two are stupid. We could do this smart thing and we'd be done in 5 minutes. And I would be like, as a kid, I thought that was kind of funny. Now, as an adult, I am just dying the whole time. Like, there's these moments where Thundar and Ukla jump off a freaking cliff, like 700 feet through the air, into a jungle of boiling lava, worms and rat men. I mean, some insane combination of things. Or hairy bear snakes, which, by the way, is in Thundar the Barbarian, and somehow they survive the fall, and she's just up there going like, or I could have just lowered us down with magic, you know. She's just up there like going like, why am I traveling with these lunk-headed morons? And that's what I loved about that, was the fact that it was both things were in the show. And so when people go like, oh, Eric's hating on, and I'll use Dragon Ball Z or Evangelion or whatever, I'm like, no, I don't like it. That doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't have the right to really enjoy. Like, I'll bring up G.I. Joe Mass Device storyline. There's a whole bunch of really dreadfully stupid moments in that. But on the same note, I still enjoy the hell out of it. There's still a lot of really wonderful bits in there. There's Cobra and G.I. Joe playing ice hockey with a part of the Mass Device, which even as a kid, I was going like, really? Like, this just, even for a kid, it seemed profoundly juvenile. You're like, huh.
Just because we don't like it means it's bad.
Just
because we like it means it's good.
No, I actually think I think that's the order of things. Is there is supposed to be stuff that you just don't like groove with, and somebody else really grooves with it, and that's the way it is. It's like there's people out there that really love Yu-Gi-Oh! I could not even begin to explain to anybody, outside of the fact that you play the game, why you would really love Yu-Gi-Oh! To me, I watched it, and I watch wacky, crazy, goofy, strange, ridiculous stuff all the time. And I still went, why? There was the one episode I caught, there were two pretty people in Japanese J-pop outfits with super stylized hair, racing down a pair of tracks, playing cards. I could not logically connect why the race and the cards were connected. And they were all being really pompous about the collectible card they just played. And I was like, guys, I could do the same thing with Magic the Gathering, and it would be equally dumb. And I really like Magic the Gathering's artwork and stuff. And I'm going like, why are they racing? What does this have to do with the card game? Why are they pretty? How is this exciting? How is this compelling? Do I need to understand the game to? But on the same note, it's not made for me, and so it's okay that I don't get it. And so fine. No, people. When I was a cartooning teacher, I had students that loved Yu-Gi-Oh, and I just couldn't get it. I was like, okay, I guess I just have to be the old guy here and just not get this one. But I get the fact that they had the total right to love it, the total right to. I clearly, because like I could show them Thunder the Barbarian, for example, and they'd be like, I don't get this. I'd be like, what's not to get about an apocalyptic barbarian story? Like, and be a snot about it. But
Bob just joined.
oh, hey Bob, how's it going? We have got way more people than we normally do. It must be coincidence because we normally do 10 to 11 in the morning and get almost nobody. I mean, one or two people, but like nothing like this. We've got like 8 people so far total this morning.
Yeah, 4 people watching right now.
Yeah, but like total, like we've had like more people this morning than.
Probably about 6, 7 people came in here. Bob says, it's a lazy Saturday, or lazy Sunday, which he understands. No one wants to go outside, it's too hot.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Which is understandable. And Jim says, Melinda likes Pirates of Dark Water, and I was like, dude, Pirates of Dark Water was the jam. And he also says that the U.S. release of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was confusing, especially how a 10-year-old boy can jump into a deep voice.
Yeah, there was, actually there's stuff like that I could go, no, I'm cool with blank ridiculous thing. Like, irrationally styled hair, or a 10-year-old with super deep voices, or
Shin-chan.
or anything. You pick any number of like crazy things. I'm good with it, as long as I am entertained by the characters and story. At the end of the day, that's all I really care about. And there's just moments like I would catch just some shows and go like, man, this is totally 100% not made for me. I'm not. It's like the characters don't mean anything. The plot to me is blank, or whatever. It's just a sort of. And so it's what I mean is people just have a right to. It's like people that watch professional sports. I just don't get it, and that's fine. That's their thing. They watch a ball going back and forth on a field for, I don't know how long these games even last, 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
And my favorite is I would sit down with, who was it? It was years ago. Somebody that liked football, for example. And they're like, no, watch this. Watch the tactics. And I'm like, so I watched it, and like the lines would just go like smash, and the ball would go. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't see any tactics. Let me watch this again. And the two lines go smash, and the ball would go. I'm like, oh, I guess I missed the tactics. Let me see. No. This is really clever. Watch what they're going to do. And everyone goes, crash, and the ball goes. And I'm like, this really is just the same thing to me. I mean, maybe you're seeing, like, tactics. Like, maybe you're just looking deep into the crowd of muscly, meaty sweat monsters running into each other repeatedly. and you're seeing like maybe they're high-fiving and giving like little gestures, and there's a complexity and the impact. But I kept just seeing guys running into each other repeatedly, and a ball going, and I was like, I guess this is just your thing, because I'm not clearly seeing what you're seeing. And I was in, it was one time we visited your family, and there was a football game on, and every single time somebody would do something, was he a nephew or a cousin?
So, a relative.
Yeah, and he would just, wow, and he'd get all excited, and he'd stand up and cheer, and they'd get down on the couch and just like almost fall asleep. And then randomly something like, and he'd stand up and I'm just, it was like this, it was weird to me. I was like going like, huh, he's seeing something I'm literally not seeing. I'm like, huh, this is, in other words, it's not made for me. It's made for, other people with other psychological or social needs than I've got. And I'm like, but that's what I mean. It's like just people, kind of, it's sort of going back briefly to the dark moments of the earlier part of this broadcast. People have these perspectives, and it's just so difficult from anybody from another perspective to really deeply fathom where somebody else is coming from. And it's not to say that there's a right or a wrong there. It's just it makes it so impossible for some people to really see and hear what the other person's saying. I mean, I had this supremely unpleasant experience earlier this week, and no matter what I could say or do, I could not get my perspective across. It was an absolute wall. And and that's, I think there's just sort of this universal thing happening here, whether it's cartoons or it's just personalities colliding, that no matter what, there's just some people that can't, which is sad. I mean, I wish it was another way, but you just kind of get to a point on some things where, it's like with like people that watch Evangelion and they keep explaining to me why, and I mean, I in theory understand and see where they're coming from, but then I just watch the show and I just go like, I just can't, I can't do this. Why would I put myself through this show? And though the point being made, and I think Jim Finney made the best, to me, defense for Evangelion being, and I think I'm getting this right, it is characters living through the end of the world and not being able to do anything at all about it, and how it affects them. And with that description, I'm like, that sounds amazing. And then I would watch it and go like, this is like slowly slitting my wrist over and over again. So it's like I totally got where he was coming from, and I can agree with, oh no, I can see that. That makes sense. Blah, blah, blah. No, I can now, thank you. That is actually which is usually what I get from Jim, an incredibly concise, Jim Finney, an incredibly concise, interesting, well thought out perspective. And yet I still would watch Evangelion and just be like, I can't put myself through this. Like I totally get what he's saying, and I'm like totally like, wow, man, that's the best, because I've talked to Evangelion fans and they just go like, you just don't get it, and which is not a defense or anything. It's just that's a wall. I'm not understanding where you're coming from, and you're not really explaining why you like it. It's just that you blame me for not getting it, which, not the first time I've had that happen in my life. But when Jim said that, I was like, oh, that is a super interesting perspective. And yet I'm still not able to watch the show even with that perspective, because it's just like, I don't like any of the characters. The story is seriously repetitious and predictable. And when everyone's like, you couldn't have seen that coming, I'm like, actually, there was a lot. There was actually, let me think. No, I don't think I was remotely surprised at all in the show, which to me is a problem. When I could see everything coming, and a lot of people, oh, you didn't see that coming. I'm like, I kind of actually really did. But the blood hit the bus in the scene, and it was so horrifying. I'm like, yes, it was horrifying. It was also amazingly predictable, and I was wondering when something like that was about to happen, and when it did, I was like, oh, there it is. Wow, that's a lot of blood. Like, you just hit that moment, you're like, yeah, that is in fact And beautifully animated. I mean, I'm not saying that like the whole thing sucked. It was a lot like a Disney feature in the way that it was beautifully produced, great backgrounds, great design artwork, but then you get to a point where you're going like, is this it? Is this, like with Frozen? No, more so, Moana. Is this what I'm watching a soundtrack commercial? Is this it? And I can compare that to like Pixar, where you end up going like you just hit moments like Up. Like the first 3 minutes of Up is so like Lasseter just took his sadistic hands and reached out of the screen and grabbed my heart and went, "This is what you get for buying our product. Now you're gonna watch the rest of it." And I'm like, and I walked out of that movie going like, "Holy cow!"
It's more along the lines of, "This is what you get for having feelings."
This is what you get for being a human being. And what I typically get from Disney is, "We want you to buy more products." You see, and that's kind of what I felt from Evangelion, is it just seemed like a big, massive marketing ploy where they just went, "We're going to do this for this kind of person and this for this kind of person, and we're going to make sure that, and it just felt so insincere.
Jim says Moana is Little Mermaid backwards.
Little Mermaid. It kind of is.
Well, that explains why I love Little Mermaid and didn't like Moana that much.
Moana, the anti-Ariel. Yeah.
Oh. It's kind of bad considering she's like one of the very few like protagonists of color that was actually kind of cool.
That's actually what really hurt me about Moana is I liked everything about it. But its story.
Yes.
Or should I say the lack of, because they kept shoving the soundtrack in so deep. It basically felt like, wow, I was about to say something that was completely inappropriate for this stream. I have to rethink that completely in a way that's not horribly obscene.
Let's just say you didn't like it and move on.
Yeah, it was. I'll put it this way: I felt violated, and I'm not saying that as a joke. I watched Moana and legitimately felt violated. I felt like they promised me one thing, then they did a bait and switch, and they did it in the meanest way possible, which was that they were just, here's going to be this great character moment, you're going to get plot and all this great stuff, and, oh, here's a terrible song, here, you have to listen to this now. Here, listen to our music. Listen to it. Listen to our music. Enjoy it. That's right, now you're going to buy the soundtrack. And I'm going the whole time going like, gee, I almost had a great character moment. And now I'm forced to listen to this god-awful song that I really honestly don't like. And I know that that's my opinion as to the music. Because I'm sure I know there's people out there that have told me they really enjoyed the music. But to me, the music was milquetoast. It was weak tea. I've heard it 1,000 times. It was and the thing is people go, "Oh, you just don't like musicals." Bull, I don't like musicals. But I have to have the music associated with the story.
I think for me, the best description for me was the movie hurt my feelings.
And not in a good way.
No, well, getting your feelings hurt isn't good enough in general. It's like it just hurt my feelings. And like you said, you were promised one thing.
And it got something else.
Yeah, and
It was very insincere.
It's one of the few times I actually, because I've learned not to get myself hyped up for various things anymore because of disappointment.
Oh, I find getting excited about anything is just completely unwise.
Yeah, and it was unfortunate. That was one of the few things I really got hyped up for because you had this, the designs that I saw were beautiful. It was
gorgeous.
The scenery, the animation was beautiful. And
oh,
well
what's his name? Was it what was the guy's name? Maui,
Maui, yeah.
Maui, yeah. No, and the thing I'm going like, we got this really big dude, and he's really awesome, and like I really loved his design, and I liked the guy. It was The Rock, right?
Yeah, it was The Rock.
And I'm like, and I liked the voice actor, and then they just gave me nothing. They gave me nothing, and it was so infuriating. It was like, this is. You had this opportunity to do this great thing, and actually, no, I take it back. There was one musical sequence I liked. One.
Yeah, the beginning.
No.
Oh,
It was they were going across the ocean with the tribal music.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really cool. Like you just, the boats and all the costumes and the water and the ocean and
that was the storytelling when she found the ships.
Yeah.
In the grotto. That was a very good one, and I wish they would have done more of it.
But the problem I had with it is it just was, as cool as it was, it somehow still felt unimpactful because instead of really kind of, I don't know, there was something about it that, as great as that was,
It felt insincere to me.
or ineffective. Mm-hmm. Like they had this great build-up. She gets into a cave, and there's the secret boats, and there was this great environment, all these different beautiful boat designs, and it was all mysterious. And I was like, oh, where is this going? And yet they gave me the best musical sequence in the whole thing, and yet I still felt it was ineffective. I was like, that was it? I was like, and it was the best one, too. So I wasn't, I guess I was really felt like, it just didn't work. I'm sorry. To me, to other people, fine, it worked. To me, it didn't. And I was so happy to go do the dishes halfway through the movie so I could get out of the room. And I think another thing that hurt it was I still had Zootopia on my head. Mm-hmm. And Zootopia is probably one of the strongest things Disney's period ever done. And I'll include a lot of the really old school stuff that's really beautifully done. And to me, Zootopia was brilliant. And then I had the advantage of not seeing Frozen, really, to know what a real massive disappointment Frozen was. And it was, to me, it was super disappointing. It had the cardinal sin. It was boring. Entertainment should be specifically not one thing. Boring. And it was really, really boring to me. I mean, I was literally on the couch, not able to focus on it at all because it was so... And what the disappointing thing with that one is it had a really great base idea. The two sisters and the prince was the villain, and I liked that idea. But at the end of it...
Unfortunately, once again,
Yeah.
They gave up the ideal of having a story for adding more
A soundtrack.
Musical. And the thing is,
Yeah.
I adore musicals, and I especially adore Disney musicals. But man, yeah, it's like when you basically make a movie just for the sake of making a Broadway show.
That's unforgivable.
Yeah,
You have missed the point entirely. Yeah. If that's what you think is a good idea, to create a piece of culture so somebody has maybe the want to go and drive to New York or whatever and see a stage show is so weird. It's so weird. It's so unrealistic. It's so out there, not in a good way.
You've been going for 1 hour and 1 minute.
Okay, well, it's I'm kind of getting to the point anyway where I'm probably done. But yeah, just
That looks really good.
yeah, it's not bad.
Like I said, you did way
It's not
better
bad.
than my initial attempt when I tried it. I actually took an X-Acto knife to the page and cut it out. I was so ashamed of it.
I'm going to clean my shavings off this time. I had shavings stuck to Xer 1 when I opened up last. I'm like, no, she's got eraser boogers on her. All right, well, it's kind of a weird episode in many ways. But yeah, no, everyone have a good week. Thank you everyone for joining me. And thank you for sitting through probably not too much of a rant, but maybe a mild amount of therapy there for a moment. Anywho, everyone have yourself a good week, and I will catch you later. So now comes the traditional moment that, frankly, Mr. Rogers taught us, or he's taught me as a kid. You should put your crap away so your mom doesn't strangle you. So I'm going to put my crap away in hopes that my mom doesn't come off a vacation over to my house here and strangle me in the dark, which would be a real surprise, to be honest. Anywho, everyone have a good one, and thank you very much, and have a great week.